Can't see you guys. Where'd you go? There you are. Sorry. I'm trying to do 4 different screens here and they don't want to agree with me. All right. So public comment?
We don't have any.
Okay. And the approval of the minutes.
I went through, they looked good to me.
I agree.
Yeah, I read them too. I'll second.
Second? Okay. Okay, and then reorganization. What? Can you explain that a bit, Michelle?
Sure. So, we needed to reorganize. It's been a while, so I just wanted to make sure, with the officers, Rich, as chair, Harry as vice chair, or if there needed to be a change.
I am fine changing out if anyone wants it. I mean, I'm in school full time now with a full-time job, so I wouldn't argue the point, but that's up to you guys.
As far as I'm concerned, you keep it the same. Do you need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yeah, make the motion that we keep things the same.
I'm fine with whatever you guys are fine with. If you're content, I'm content. Does not matter.
Okay. So,
Okay, make a motion to keep it the same.
Okay, I'll second.
awesome. Animal Control Agency report. Excuse me.
All right, so I will run through what I have here. I know previously when Elizabeth was with us, she would be present for these meetings and provide this information. This would be the first meeting that we're having that she is no longer with us. So that brings me to just another topic. I'll give you guys the numbers of the reports I was able to pull. However, if there is anything that is, you know, like if there's anything requested differently than what I have here, let me know so I can make sure that we have that for every meeting. The other thing I did want to discuss and just decide on and get everyone's opinion is if we would be interested in having Amara, who is the new shelter director, present as well for the meetings to provide that kind of information and have that additional presence. If that is something that we want to do, if we, you know, thought it was useful to have it when we had it be Elizabeth. Amara is now in her capacity, so I just wanted to bring that up as well and just kind of see where everyone thought on that component for her.
I think that sounds like a helpful thing. I mean, I can't see how that would be a hindrance of anything. I mean, it'd be nice to have the input.
Yeah. Okay. And she was fine, you know, with either way, either providing the information to me or I pull the report and provide it to you guys, or she brings it to the meetings, whatever ends up happening. I think in her capacity and her role in the shelter, it would be helpful to have that extra person. So that's fine if that's what we're on the same page about. I can relay that to her. And then Michelle, I could just get you her email information so that she is in the loop on the email thread and conversations and stuff like that for scheduling meetings and anything.
Sure.
Especially when we're discussing stuff as far as the shelter as a whole and the capacity. I think that would be good for that. So that sounds good. I'll make a note of that. As far as the numbers go I compiled everything for 2023 since we are meeting beginning of this year, and got all the numbers compiled for that. So as far as total animal admissions, based on the reports that I was able to pull, animals coming into the shelter originating from the city of Reading in any capacity were 2,504. Is that total number? Just to ballpark that and put it into kind of perspective. I don't have the exact number, but based on the reports we got from senior management, the beginning of the year, we had just over 4,000 animals total coming into the shelter. So 2,504 of that were ones that came from the city. And that includes, you know, surrender, stray, that's the whole umbrella. And then I also pulled reports for the dispatches for the city because I thought that would be helpful to have. So for 2023, a total number is going to be 877 total dispatches. So from the Department of Animal Protection or anybody acting on animal control, dispatching into the city in any capacity, total number is 877. I did break that down into what they were. If that is something that you want, I can also provide that later if you don't want that provided here.
If you want to send that later on, I'd be curious to see what that is, honestly.
I'd like to see that just because we're getting a lot of complaints for chickens and things along those lines, and I don't know how many yous are getting as opposed to what we're getting. So I'd like to see that also.
Okay, so what I can do, I mean, I can read them off here. Now, as far as the I don't have a breakdown of what it was, the actual species complaint is for. Like I have, you know, the animal control, cruelty complaints, what was RTF and what was routine inspection. But I will just tell you off the top of my head, we have not received a lot of chicken complaints recently. I would have to, I can dig further into that for sure though for you and run it under that specific code for the dispatches. So I can work on that and get that back to you later via email, just so you have it for the chickens. But as far as just to kind of give the breakdown here, I can send it an email as well. So total is going to be 877. 530 of those are going to be animal control related dispatches. 197 are going to be cruelty complaint related dispatches. 136 are going to be RTF, return to fields related dispatches, and then 14 are going to be under our routine inspection, which is microchip license follow-up or permit inspections. Follow-up inspections. But yes, I can get you the specifics on the chickens if that is helpful to have.
Now,
Savannah.
chickens, roosters, anything along exotic animals, I would appreciate.
Yeah, because we do code it under the animal control as whether it is whatever, you know, capacity it is. So I can just select in that report running which ones were complaints regarding that. I can also run which ones were complaints regarding, you know, over so many animals, you know, 6 animals, whatever. I should be able to get that breakdown for you. And that would fall under the 530 animal control.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Savannah, is there a way also to break out whatever complaints there are for code red, code blue?
Yes.
Because I have a feeling that might become an issue this year.
Breakout for foul, and I can, yeah, I mean, I can see what we pulled for 2023. I can see
Right.
what number we have there. Okay. But yes, that's what I have for the report.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And oops. So old business. 936.
So I just made notes, you know, for all of these and went through a significant, I would say a lot of the ones on the old business, and maybe even some on the news business. Michelle and Charlie and I got and had a meeting back in October and just kind of touch base on. So I just put, you know, notes, the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were ones that we have no other, you know, at this time, any other investment in, and we're just kind of forwarded over and either already had action, what sounds like from property maintenance, or like needed to, or something like that. That's where we were at with that.
Yeah, there's several we have NOVs on. There's some that are owner occupied residences, which is really tough for our department.
Yeah.
Whatever became of the animal ordinance amendment thing with the dog, cat versus the animal point system?
So the last information that we had was, and it was listed in here. I did pull it out from what was provided in the agenda from what is currently stated and then what was proposed from what Hayden had put together. So, I mean, I think that that is something that obviously we can continue discussing or figuring out if we want to at this time, leave it as it is. In addition, we need to, I mean, all I have is what was proposed and what was given from Hayden. He is no longer with the shelter, so I don't have any other additional information to provide with that. If that is something that we want to discuss and make other adjustments to, you know, we absolutely may. If that is something that we want to at this time, leave it as it currently is, also fine. But I don't think there was any confirmation on what we were planning to do.
As part of that ordinance, there was an email that was going back and forth. I don't see anything on here. But I know with a few of them that had permits for 6 cats and dogs, there was an email that was going back and forth about the renewal fees. Did you have the opportunity to look into that at all, Michelle?
That completely slipped my mind. My apologies. No, I did not. I'll do that when I get back to the office tomorrow.
Okay, I just wasn't curious because I know it was supposed to be a discount. There had been an email going back and forth, but it was never specific as to what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And I did check on the permits that we had. It did say, I believe, $45 for the renewal.
And
But
I'm not sure because we did update fees, so I'm not
Mm.
sure
yeah,
at this point.
okay. The one I do have marked on here, I know, like we just said, the beginning for the old business, those properties either, like, you know, you said, Charlie, for the property maintenance ones, had an OBs out, wherever you're at with that. I do know the one listed for 1613 North 9th Street is now under the limit.
Yeah, I saw an email where there was 1 or 2 that were being removed.
Mm-hmm. It looks like also, I don't see it on the old business, but I think it was discussed, was the 1023 Douglas Street as well is now under the limit. I didn't know if that was marked anywhere else, but those 2 are under the limit.
What was that address, Savannah?
1023 Douglas Street
1023 Douglas, under the limit now?
is under the limit. That is correct. And then also 1613 North 9th Street.
And 1023 Douglas was just through a 2-year inspection, which the inspector did look at conditions while they were there and said that everything appeared to be fine.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Charlie, what was that address? Y'all are talking faster than I can write.
Oh, that was 1023 Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
It just went through a 2-year and the inspector said they didn't notice anything, no smells,
Perfect.
no anything that was out of the ordinary.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I think those were the only 2 I had listed that were needed to be like adjusted at all for now under the limit and could potentially be, you know, removed from the agenda or had no other action.
There was one other, but we're not at that point yet. I guess it was 1520 Mulberry. It's no
Yeah,
longer
that's down
the-
further.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Sorry.
Oh, I see that one's on. I was gonna say the other one I was thinking is on new business. Okay, so yeah, that would be it for the old business ones.
Okay, new business?
Oh, wait, can we go back up?
Oh, sure.
There were some people gonna make some phone calls and do some checking about the pet store ban. I didn't know if that was something that also should stay on the agenda or if that was something that we're gonna not pursue at this time.
The last, I did have a conversation with Lisa regarding, because I did say I was gonna check in with Lisa when I was talking to her just about that. So we were unsure at the time, if that was in addition or relation to if it was its own entity pet store or if it was branching off from the pet store that was relocating from the mall. I don't know if anybody else remembers us discussing this. So
Yeah.
I wanted to touch base with Lisa just to say, hey, have you heard anything about them relocating here or opening a new store here? And I did get confirmation from her that they were not, it is two completely different entities. It is not a branch of that establishment.
My checkbook is right here then.
That is the only discussion or conversation that I had further regarding that.
You mean the one in Exeter is a totally different entity from the one that was in the mall, that one? Or are you talking about the one that's in the city?
No, I'm talking, yeah, I'm talking about, because we had discussed this because they were applying to open in the city. Or we had somebody had gotten an email about if there were concerns about like a pet store ban. So we had discussed that there was, I guess, information told through somebody that it was potentially another location from them. Does that make sense?
Like a
maybe
satellite store.
something-
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Alright,
but it's not. It's a completely different entity.
okay.
Yeah, I think the original thing was whether the pet store that was in the mall relocated into the Exeter location. And there was a lot of citizens that were basically all up in arms about it. And they started this whole email campaign and everything and wanted all municipalities to try and ban pet stores. But also, we had just covered in the last meeting and stuff where it's too much for us to try to limit that because it's beyond our scope. It would have to be officers being able to police it and make sure that they're all, doing things that they should be. And it's just beyond our scope as far as what we would be able to handle. And plus with the mayor being at the grand opening of the Alpha Pet Shop, I don't think that's necessarily a good move to make. It's like, hey, we just had this grand opening. Now, no, you can't do it anymore.
The one
So-
thing that I will mention, and I feel like we may have discussed before, and I totally agree with you 100%, Anna. I also feel like, at least right now we have a great relationship with Lisa Cronk, the dog warden. That way, if she ever has concerns that we need to get involved with for whatever reason, or it's in one of anything alarming, she brings it to our attention and vice versa. So I would feel pretty confident that if she was doing any inspection and had anything alarming, she would let us know. So we would still be able to kind of have that information. Plus, I have no doubt in my mind that if somebody has anything concerning regarding that location in the city, that we will be made aware.
I agree, Savannah. I think we have enough grassroots people with animal concerns that they would definitely be reporting it right away.
100%. And to my knowledge, we have not received any complaints or reports at all about that establishment opening. Just reading through if there was anything else on that from the notes from before, but I think that was everything. Did we need to?
I think we just had to do our due diligence as far as a council and stuff to make sure we addressed it,
Right.
talked about it, and didn't just dismiss that email.
Right, 100%.
I'm Michelle, anything else from that section? Do you?
I don't have anything.
No, we can go to new business.
New business?
Well, I did want to bring up, it is on there about old business about outdoor feeding
Oh,
that had
okay.
come up in our last meeting and making sure that, we do understand what the guidelines are with outdoor feeding. Because there were some issues with people getting cited or threatened to be cited with feeding outdoor cats. And we know how much of an issue cats are in the city. So it was like just about trying to find out what the guidelines are and making sure they're communicated because, the feeders, they want to comply, but it's not being made clear. There's, with the RTF that's going on and all the TNR, because that's pretty much all the choices that there are right now. They're not sure what to do.
I know one time, if they were feeding outdoor cats, the city didn't have a problem providing they pulled the food up at night because they didn't want the wild animals coming in for the food.
Yeah,
Right,
and
which is
That's
perfectly
changed.
understandable. We just have to figure out how can we communicate it and get everybody on the same page? Because if we have police officers who are threatening to cite people for the outdoor feeding and they're just saying you're not allowed to feed, and it gets very confusing.
Right.
So it's like we got to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right.
yeah, and I agree, Harry. We had said the same thing, and I know I don't think that because it says the notes in here that we were going to discuss this with property maintenance. I don't think anybody was present and from that department in the last meeting, and I don't think we went into detail further on it. But I will say we have at least not received as many phone calls about it. And after that meeting, we did continue the same thing that we were doing, which we have always previously, we have always advised people the same thing. Like Harry said, as long as it's pulled at night, that's fine, because that was always what we were advised was okay. So that's what we would act on. But I do know, like Anna said, that we were also getting calls, and as we stated in the last meeting, that people were concerned that they were getting other information from other areas about being, held responsible or getting in trouble if they were feeding.
And this kind of leads into the first topic under new business. Savannah, when you were interviewed for your reappointment, you talked about doing some community events and providing education at those events. And this could be, one of the perfect example.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the one thing I would just mention, obviously, if there's any confirmation from the property maintenance or code side as far as that verbiage for the ordinance, because it sounds like that's where people were stating that they were getting either threatened to be cited for feeding. So I just want to make sure that we're obviously giving all the right information. Because we're also advising people that if they have a colony outside that they're doing TNR or TF for, that it's fine to feed so long as they're pulling it at night to not attract the wildlife, because that's what we've always acted under.
Is there a way that we can get this more or less put into some guidelines and actually get it onto, like, on the website or on the Facebook page or something so that it can get referred back to? So like if, a police officer comes up and says, hey, you're doing this wrong, they can sit there and say, hey, refer to this document or whatever.
I'll be
this code.
curious to know what it actually said. I don't know for sure. Well, I don't know exactly what it says in that, what the parameters are, if there even is anything in the exact ordinance for it.
There is, and it's very
It's
very
vague.
vague. It's very vague, extremely vague. It can be interpreted in many different ways. It's too open.
So it doesn't mention the pulling it up or anything like that? Is that not what it says, or?
It was a while ago. It was, I think, right after our last meeting that I looked it up. So I don't remember exactly, but it basically just says about, it's in the same, I think Michelle had actually sent it to us, but it was actually in the same portion as far as picking up waste and things like that, as far as caring for the animals. So it's
Right.
like, if they sit there and say, don't leave waste, well, food could be interpreted as being waste if the animal doesn't eat it
Yeah.
right
So,
away.
Which is what
So,
Harry was talking about, it's okay to feed if you keep it clean.
right.
I mean, the animal maintenance issue comes under a quality of life violation under our QOL 2, which says animal maintenance and waste cleanup. That's what it pertains to.
Mhm.
Can it be taken to a different level where somebody misunderstands it? That's highly possible.
mhm.
Now,
Maybe
I
it
mean,
needs to be looked at and directed more.
Right. That's what I was saying. More or less just guidelines.
Well, if we can
Yeah,
get it
I'm-
guidelines, we can put it on the
Right.
site. I can share it on the hospital page, and I have friends who run other veterinary hospitals as well. We can share the link, and so we can get that information out there fairly well to a bunch of people.
I don't know, Charlie, if you know this, but to your knowledge, are there a lot of cases where people are being cited for feeding, or not so much?
I think it's somewhat selective. There are some neighborhoods that are heavy where there's 10 or 15 cats all being drawn in one place, and the neighbors get very upset you know, because of what happens in the yards and so forth. And right at this point, that QOL2 violation is probably what would be issued. It could go to a notice of violation based on that. It's kind of left up to interpretation, and when you have neighbors call in 10 times for the same thing, you want to try and get compliance. How do we get compliance and not have an entire neighborhood overrun by cats?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm open to suggestions I can pass on.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if it was, because we have not, to my knowledge, gotten a lot of calls about, when we previously discussed this, we were getting a lot of calls of people like saying, hey, I'm feeding and I'm taking care of this colony and I'm doing right by them and I'm, you know, keeping my property clean, but I'm being threatened by so and so, or they're seeing it being released elsewhere. Maybe it was interpreted incorrectly and they're concerned, like, I'm putting food out for this colony and I might be cited for it, but they are keeping their property, you know, clean and appropriate. So we have not been getting a lot of calls like that anymore. And after we had discussed this, we continued, and through the email thread regarding like what you had discussed as far as making sure that everything is clean and orderly, we have been advising people that, you know, that's fine. That's kind of how we've been operating. But I can only speak on the calls that obviously that we are getting. If there is still a concern out there, I don't want people to have that. I want there to be some clarification if possible. If they are, you know, allowed to feed, as long as they are following, you know, whatever guidelines.
We get maybe 1 or 2 a month. It's nothing extravagant. There's a few areas. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that off of Kutztown Road, when they used to put out like 50-pound bags of food constantly. I mean, there was colonies living out there. Things on that. So we haven't had a lot recently.
Okay. So I mean, as long as we're still, it's not a problem of how we're disclosing it to people. That's the one thing I want to just make sure that we're giving the right information, obviously.
Well, I
So-
mean, like I said, basically what based on what I'm reading right in front of me here, it's more about the maintenance than it is about anything else.
Right.
So basically, as long as people are aware that, okay, they can feed, pick up any leftovers, don't leave food there 24/7, pick up any feces, you know, or any messes that the animals would make.
See, the way I read this here, though, this is not specific to picking stuff up, and that's where the education part of it needs to come in, because I think that's what people don't realize.
Then what can we do to clarify that?
I mean, how do you get things out to the public? I'm sorry, I'm not the best person to ask that question, but I do think it needs to be done so they understand. But I don't honestly have the right answer for you as to how to go about doing that.
No, and that's why I was kind of putting it out to the entire council as far as I'm new to this, you know, granted I've been doing it a couple years on it, but you know, how do we go about this? How do we go about getting something put together and getting it put in so that we can make it available to the public?
I can work with the city's communications coordinator to ask for something to be put on the website and the social media pages.
Maybe
We just have to come up with it, right?
I'd have to make a flyer or something
well,
about
maybe
it.
something should be put out to the appropriate police force. And you're saying about that the police are involved, that people call them, that they're aware of the situation, that people, as long as they pick it up at night, so they don't have a problem. You know what I mean? If they do go to somebody and they can tell them that fact.
Yeah, and I mean, if we get it out on the website or, you know, or even if it's sent, you know, to us as council members and stuff, like I know some rescues and things like that, I'd be more than willing to share it with them so that they can get it out on their face, so that they can communicate it, like Berks Community Cats, No Nonsense Neutering, you know, all of those, so that we can get it through. So everybody is, yeah, at least the rescue end of it, who also support the feeders. And then, you know, if everybody's trying their best to be in compliance, I think that'll be, not that, I know you were saying there's only maybe 2 complaints a month, but during the summer when everybody's more out in the neighborhood more and everything else, those complaints are going to increase. So if we get people on the same page and compliant before then, hopefully we can be proactive and keep some of those complaints from coming forward.
And just to confirm, Charlie, were you looking under the sanitation section for that? Is that what
Yeah.
you said it would fall under?
I was actually looking under the quality of life violations, which there's, I believe, 25 of, where it comes under a QOL2. If you just go to a website and you look up QOL violations, it'll give you the numbers.
Okay, I was just going through the ordinance, like the list of everything where we access for like,
I mean, for the most part, when we get animal complaints, it's going to be a quality of life type of thing. We're not going to dig into the ordinance and try and hurt somebody, if you understand what I'm saying.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's the information. I think that's the information Michelle sent us before. It was from the QOL.
Okay.
Mhm.
And does everybody understand what the differences are there? What that means? With the QOL, with the ticket versus a violation? No, yes. Charlie, do you want to explain that a little bit so that they understand the difference between a ticket and a violation or
I
citation?
will try. Okay, a quality of life violation more or less comes from what is affecting neighbors. What your neighbor standing and make a complaint, you left your trash cans out too long, the dog's pooping on the sidewalk and stuff like that. That is what's considered a very basic violation. When you want to start getting into the ordinances are actually left up to interpretation when you read through them. They are not extremely specific. So 2 different people can read the ordinance and look at it a little bit differently as to what they're allowed to do.
The other thing too is that the ticket system was created for items that you can quickly correct. So if your trash cans are out front longer than they're supposed to be, and you get a ticket or a warning, I think they get the first time, you just take them in the backyard. It's not something that needs property maintenance to be rechecking and making sure that things are corrected. It's something that you can do now to avoid a problem, learn the lesson, and then keep up with it rather than getting deeper into a lot of the MDJ cases, and you know, it's a lot less complicated issues.
The other thing to be aware of, that when we give quality of life violations, the first violation is a warning. You don't get a fine, you don't get anything. It's to make you aware that what you're doing is a problem and giving you time to correct it before it moves on to the next level. So it moves from a warning to a quality of life violation, in which you get 4 before it would move to an actual notice of violation, and actual ordinance issues would start applying. So there's more than enough time, because each quality of life violation that's issued, when we issue it, we have to give 10 days to correct the violation before we can issue another one. So in essence, it would be 50 days from the date of an original violation, a QOL with a warning, and then 4 other QOLs before we would even move forward to a citation or anything like that. Unless it's an extreme circumstance where we would decide that we need to move ahead more quickly.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, so for that from there, Michelle, you said something about just getting in touch with the city regarding making a, however we wanna,
Yeah, I'll work with the communications coordinator to get something created that's a flyer type
okay,
that we can distribute to everyone and then have posted on the website and the
okay.
Facebook, Instagram pages.
Yeah, and once that's, I mean, I can send that to our communications person as well then too.
Can we get a or at least can I get a follow-up email with that information? Or at least when it's posted so that I can reshare it?
Yeah, like a
Sure.
link, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send that out to everyone.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No,
So I guess the rest of the new business, the other homes on there.
So Michelle, you had put on here the providing education at community events. Is this something we want to like discuss about now or have a? What are your thoughts on that?
So when you were interviewed for reappointment, you had talked about getting into the community more.
Yeah,
So that's where this topic came from. So I
Okay.
didn't know if that was something you all wanted to talk about now,
Yeah.
or if we wanted to wait till the next meeting. However, because if we don't, more events start happening in the warm weather. So
Mhm.
kind of to get ready now so that if we want to, or if you want to do that, you have some handouts or talking topics, that kind of stuff to be ready.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I'm definitely still, 100% with that, and I would like to loop in, Jose, our communications, um, person, because he's usually present in a lot of events as well. So as long as there's, notification to us on, when these are happening, he may even know, he'll know more than I will, because he's usually the go-to person for that kind of stuff. And then he'll loop me in or whoever he needs appropriate, depending on what the event's for. But I love that. And I'm totally game for that. If there's anything, I definitely agree the outdoor feeding. If there are any other specific topics that we want to have. I mean, we already have a list of things that we usually bring to events like that if we're going to be having a tent set up or a table set up or anything like that at events within the city. But if there's any other topics I can see if we don't have anything for that or should have something for that or
You know,
I have sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go right ahead.
I was just because I actually had some notes on this too, because it was one of the things I had brought up with my reappointment as well, as far as getting into the community more and educating and making more spaces available in the city and stuff, as far as doing community events for animal related things. But I think possibly too, like partnerships with, maybe inviting I know that at one point, ARL and Humane were working together, but maybe, doing something where we have a lot of the grassroots rescues and those types of things and have them all at one type of thing, like No Nonsense, Burke's Community Cats, Humane. There's a lot of those grassroots rescues that are doing a lot in the city right now and more or less bringing them all together and doing like the education and information, and so the citizens are aware of who all they can go to and what they can go to for that, because I know that right now ARL's somewhat limited with their resources, but if you pull them all together it can accomplish a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, and I just food for thought here. Our lead department is very engaged in the community and goes to almost every event that happens within the city. If you're not sure of events and stuff like that, not that you're doing the same thing, but maybe in conjunction that you can all kind of like be lined up so that everything can flow, so that we can get our word out there. You guys can get your word out there all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And like I said, also Jose has he gets the most notification. He's at usually every event, or he appoints someone to be at every event. So that's something I can just get on one-on-one with him as far as what else is needed from our side of things, whether it's from a DAP perspective, whatever, just organizational in a whole, whatever the topics are. I really like the idea of doing some kind of like a group event sort of thing with a bunch of different places. So, I can pitch that too to them. But yeah, participating in more of the ones that are hosted in the city is definitely something that I think we should be more involved in. So I'm just gonna make a note for myself on this, regarding Anna, your suggestion for that, because I really do like that idea. And just kind of connecting with Jose on, I mean, there are some, he may be going to events and I have no idea about it. He's a totally different department than I am. So he may be showing up to things and being present in things that our department is not involved in. So I'll get with him on that component as well. And then I think it's something that we could definitely continue doing and do more of.
Well, if we can maybe touch base about this before the warm months, as you're saying, Michelle, because last year we had a lot of parvo cases that came through, more so than in the several years prior to that. And I'm imagining a lot of that's COVID dogs and things going out in the world, after that point. But we have a fear this year now with Dr. Moyer passing away as well. A lot of people will go there for cheaper vaccines and things like that in the area. So there's a combination of city and now suburbs. So if we could have an educational thing about that as well, I mean, we'd be happy to help with that. So, conjunction.
Well, and I think too, I don't know if there's any way to do it or not. I mean, I think really it needs a lot more low-cost vaccine clinics, seriously, because I know I was looking online for like low, trying to help somebody out and stuff, and there's like not much right now. There's really not, and it's just trying to make it easier for organizations to have those, because a lot of times they don't have the facility to do it. So that was part of what I was saying about making city, because city has how many properties and everything else that aren't used all the time. I mean, right on the block next to me is Parks and Recreation, which, there's people in the grounds, but the building itself is probably vacant quite a bit. So, making places available so that if somebody wants to do a vaccine clinic, they can, so giving that, I don't know what kind of finances or anything else, but, getting somebody to kind of sponsor it, subsidize it or something, because it puts a huge burden on the entire city when we do have those parvo outbreaks and things like that.
Well, if we could do something like that, I mean, it is a large undertaking, and probably more so now than it was in the past because of the explosion of pets in the past 4 or 5 years. A lot of hospitals aren't even seeing new patients anymore because they just can't handle it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do know, or I believe, I could get some vendors who manufacture the vaccines, maybe to sponsor some of these, maybe even donate some vaccines. We would still need the people to administer them, and obviously a veterinarian like for rabies and stuff like that. But we could at least maybe start the process if we knew we had a place to use.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you have a place to use in vaccines, then we're basically looking just for veterinarians and techs to donate their time, which I think that would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. We did one down in the city 6 years ago or so, 7 years ago, and it was a huge event. It was great. So
And as long as we have, I mean, right now we're getting a better schedule for the year on when we're going to be having like the clinics that ARL is going to be hosting for that are either free, like no cost or low cost, or pay what you can or whatever they're going to be based on either whichever grant it falls under or whoever is donating. Like sometimes we'll get somebody who will sponsor 100 vaccines, and then we go and we just pick a day and we find, like last year we would do it near the hotspots in the city for parvo or like whatever the situation is. So I know that is a plan to continue doing that throughout this year and up the amount of the events that we are doing now that we have more of we're trying to get the medical side kind of up and running a little bit more. So that is on the list of things, at least I know I can speak on for us. Also working on I think it's still in the works, but just kind of working on the plan for vaccine clinics with the mobile unit that we're going to be using as well. So like that'll be super helpful, where we won't necessarily need a facility to use. It would just be like coming through the van, but it is a location that we have to make sure is going to be appropriate.
Is that something you're considering doing with the mobile vaccine clinic type thing where you would set up in a certain area, like on the
Yes.
street corner or something?
More or less. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said about that's what I mean with the location. I know previously it always worked well when we used to do them outside of Doubletree, because they have such a long open walkway there, and it worked really well for the big lines. And then we would do cats indoors. However, with the mobile unit, we might not have to have a facility where we're also going indoors because it's the mobile unit. So we might be able to have one patient per, and have it enclosed. I don't know. I'm not in every single discussion regarding that. It's just what I've been able to receive so far. But yeah, so we would pick find a spot, whether that's we rotate throughout different parts of the city, because that's the other thing. Not everybody has transportation to get to us when we have these events, and that's a big issue.
Right.
Well, that was my thing.
So-
Would something like that be possible? Like, say you were going to do it at 8th and Bingham, there's an empty lot there. Would that truck be able to do something like that?
Yeah. I mean, it should be. I would assume so.
I mean, because like you're saying, not everybody's able to get to certain places.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah,
if you do it like, oh, in this section, on this date, we're gonna do from these streets to these streets. And on this day, we're gonna, and break the city down into sections. So within a period of time, it all gets covered.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And I think that is definitely long-term goal. We'll get to however many we can do and work out what works and what doesn't work through that. As long as the area that we're picking, there's enough space to safely have a line of people, then that should be fine. And typically we'll pick a different area as well. So, making sure that we're hitting different parts of the city people can get to.
Did anybody give any thought to our colleges that are in around and around Reading, Alvernia, Albright? They run. I mean, if they knew, they might have volunteers or something from those. That there are certain requirements where they have to volunteer, that they get credits for their college courses. Even I mean, that's an idea. That's what I'm throwing out there. But
Yeah.
They'd work good for crowd control. Maybe not so much for handling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, typically when we've done them, it's during, staff are working during that time. We have some that, depending, are volunteering, but most of the time it's, our vet that's coming, and then our vet techs, and then our, medical techs or handlers or whoever has done the clinics, we're there. It's a large group of people, but I know that is in discussion. There are more, like I said, there's more conversation happening with that. I don't know all the details, but I do know that it is a big plan and big priority for 2024 to make sure that we're providing them more than we were able to in previous years. I'm going to add that to the list. Anything else on that or regarding community events?
well, the only other thing I see here is new business. You got some addresses with animals. 1234 North 6, 1023
Yeah.
Greenbridge, 916 Pear, 1407 Cotton. I don't know.
So, for 916 Pear, those animals have been removed to my knowledge.
Yes, that was verified by 2 different inspector visits.
Perfect. So that one could be removed. Let me see here.
1234 North 6th has not paid for their new permit as of yet.
Okay. That was the one that I believe we were trying to get the confirmation on the amount for the renewal. However, on our end, like we discussed in our last meeting, Charlie, that one did pass an inspection for us. I think she was like maybe 1 or 2 over the limit, but I know she was waiting for confirmation on if she had to pay for a new permit because she sent a payment last year or didn't have to pay.
I'm not sure with the particular situation. I just looked it up before the meeting and saw that it wasn't paid for this year.
Okay.
1407 Cotton Street, where you were saying about deplorable conditions.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that is an owner occupied property and we have attempted to contact and we have not received any response.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that was going to be your response for that one. But I appreciate you guys trying. And we kind of hit a wall to it with it. So at least they are under the limit. We have, they surrendered, so they are under the limit. At least at the time when we were there previously. So, I don't know that there's going to be much more we're going to be able to do with that one. Is that everybody?
The only other thing you got next to be 1520 Mulberry Street. You said it's no longer above limit, so that's taken care of.
Did we do 1023 Greenwich? That was under new business.
That one I have here that also passed home inspection. And we discussed that one during our meeting in October. So I don't know if there was anything that had to be done from you guys, Charlie.
We don't have anything on that on that one at this point, unless we need to do something different. Let me know. Well, I'm going to be bringing in a new person. It's going to be doing animal control. I have 2 new health officers starting. So I'm going to bring somebody else into the meeting next month and starting letting them handle things.
Nice. So for 1023 Greenwich, I believe that I have a note on here that case summary was also sent over with 1234 North 6th. But she is over the limit, passed an inspection. All her animals are up to date on vaccines, but I don't believe she has applied for her permit yet. But passed a home inspection on our end.
Right, so that's it with the permits and the business.
I believe so. On my end, at least.
Are there other matters to discuss?
The only thing I wanted to bring up and get clarification on was with the code red and code blue with ARL not having the after hours on call is basically just what people are supposed to do. I know that they call in to either ARL, which won't answer, or police department. What instructions are they being given? How is that being handled?
Police would be enforcing it the same way that we would be enforcing it.
Okay, so they would
they would be dispatching out and doing the same wellness check and advising them to bring the dogs in the same way that we do. And then
Okay.
typically they will let us know as well. Like we'll get either a voicemail on DAP from PD from their line, the extension they have for us, that if they did one, or there was a concern or it needed a follow-up on our end the next day. But otherwise, yeah, police have the same authority to handle that as we did.
Okay, so if there is an animal outside and they're not able to get the owner to bring it in, what are they doing with the animal? Are the police then
You're
taking
asking
it?
what is police doing?
Yes.
That would be a Reading City Police question, unfortunately. The same thing they would
Okay.
be doing with any of the animals for any of the strays that they have that come in. I mean, I know that there was conversation about them doing a holding facility, like a lot of the other municipalities, but I don't know what came of that. I don't know if they officially decided on something. But that was Reading Police would have had to make that decision on where that would be, or where that location would be and what that holding facility would be.
Okay, I just know that question has come up a lot, and so I just figured I would ask it.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we're there or available, then, you know, we're enforcing it as well. If it's after hours and we
It's
don't have
Reading
anybody
PD
on,
after
then
hours.
Reading Police has the
Got
same
it.
authority. Hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other matters?
I didn't have anything else.
So that's gonna be our meeting day. Do you want us to do another poll like last time, Michelle?
Do you want to do that, or do you want to try and pick, or just give me a neighborhood since you want to do a few things before the weather gets warmer? Do you want to meet in late February, early March?
I would think early March personally would be.
I'm
good.
fine with that.
All right, then I'll poll for that time frame.
The one thing
Okay.
too, I didn't know with Hayden no longer being on the board. Because he was officially on, correct? He wasn't just showing up to the meetings, right?
Correct.
He's on,
So if that, what that does, I've never been in a situation where somebody has left. And so I don't know how that works.
So for this board specifically, the Animal Control Agency, which is the ARL, gets 2 representatives on the board. So the ARL would choose who you'd want to have attending meetings now as the second representative coming with you. And then that person would go through
The same
kind
process.
of an abbreviated application process like you do, since they come with the ARL's backing.
Perfect. Okay.
And then I believe we still have 2 other vacancies. Is that correct, Michelle?
Let me check really quick. We have a vacancy for a veterinarian. And that is the only vacancy that we have at this point besides Hayden's.
Okay.
And that's one that we have a really hard time keeping filled.
Would you want me, Michelle, to just send you an email with that determination and then we just process it, you know, from there?
Yep, that's
I have
fine.
an idea, but I don't want to suggest it and that person is not interested. So I will have those conversations and I'll email you about that.
Sounds good.
and I'll do some searching for the doctor again. I kind of let that go for a little bit, but I will take a look around for that as well.
So you're gonna send out when the next meeting is then, Michelle? Like you figuring on what, March now?
Yeah, I'll send out an email, like middle to late February to get something scheduled in early March.
Okay. If that's set, then can I make a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
All right, bye everyone.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So, it's all
Sure.
good for you.
Bye.